What is Dante's role in the Imperium? Dante's role is to meet God. Why does Dante want to meet God? Because God wants to meet him. Why does God want to meet him? Because there's a fundamental problem in the universe. And the problem is this. No one knows what God is. God doesn't know. The angels don't know. No one knows. Only Dante can know what God is. So Dante has embarked on this long journey through the cosmos, through Inferno, through Purgatory, through Paradise, in order to meet God, to figure out what God is. And you're like, wait a minute here, this makes no sense. God knows everything. No, God is perfect. God is everything. And therefore, God cannot know itself. You understand? If you are perfect, you lack an imagination. Because you know everything. Therefore, there's no limit to your knowledge. But imagination means breaking through the boundaries of knowledge. So this is a really strange situation in that God created humanity to know itself. And then, through the course of time, God picked an individual, and this person is Dante, to come to God, to let God know what it is fundamentally, to know itself, to complete itself. That's the great secret of the Divine Comedy, okay? But for Dante to figure this out, he will have to spend the rest of his life using his imagination to try to unravel what God is. Because when you first see God, God's like just an infinite beam of light. You're like, what is this, okay? He doesn't know. So he has to constantly imagine what God is before he can finally come to the answer. And even though the Roman Empire and the Catholic Church are two fundamental pillars of Western civilization, the Ennead will lead to 1,000 years, over 1,000 years of the Dark Ages, when Europe stops being creative, okay? Dante will end the Dark Ages with the Divine Comedy, and the Divine Comedy will become the blueprint for the Renaissance, the Protestant Reformation, and the Islamic Revolution, and modernity itself, okay? Basically, Dante would create the world that we live in today. So the question then is, how did this happen? How is that Homer would create Greek civilization, but then Virgil would then erode civilization, only be restored by Dante? The difference is in how they perceive the role of humans, or what does it mean to be human in this world. So for Homer, what he taught us is that love is the unifying force of the universe. So remember that Odysseus, he spends 20 years trying to return to his family, Penelope and Telemachus. And that imagination is the unifying force of the universe, okay? And what matters is the individual's connection to the source, or the monad. And if the individual is able to connect to the source, then that lights the universe, okay? But what Virgil will do, because he serves empire, is he will cut us off from the source, okay? And say, no, what matters is piety, obedience to authority. And by doing that, we cease to be individuals, we cease to be imaginative, civilization stops. So what Dante has to do is reconnect us back to the source. And if he does that, okay, then that will restore the imagination as the fundamental animating force of the universe. We can now be creative, and this will set a new path for humanity. All right? So throughout human history, there have been two competing countervailing forces. The force of empire that wants us to obey it and therefore cut us off from the source, and the force of civilization, of democracy, of love that wants us to connect back to the source and thus animate the universe with our imagination, okay? All right, guys, what you're about to hear sounds less like a medieval poem and more like a challenge to everything we think we know about human existence. In this interpretation of Dante's Divine Comedy, the journey isn't simply about finding God, it's about answering a question so profound that even God appears unable to answer it alone. The speaker argues that humanity was created with a unique ability, imagination. Not power. Not knowledge. Imagination. This is where the discussion becomes controversial. According to this view, civilizations rise when people remain connected to creativity, curiosity, and independent thought.
But when institutions, empires, or authorities demand unquestioning obedience, that connection begins to weaken. History offers countless examples of societies struggling with this exact tension between freedom and control. Dante is presented as more than a poet. He becomes a symbol of the individual willing to question reality itself. His mission is not merely spiritual, it is intellectual and deeply human. Can imagination reveal truths that authority cannot? Can one person's search for meaning reshape an entire civilization? Whether you see this as philosophy, theology, or cultural analysis, the underlying question is impossible to ignore. What happens to humanity when people stop imagining and start obeying? That question drives everything that follows.
So, the divine comedy, in other words, it's fundamentally a conflict between Virgil and Dante. So Dante must defeat Virgil in order to restore our humanity. So if Dante is to see God, if Dante is to know God, he can't do it with his eyes. The vision doesn't matter. Everyone has eyes. The higher vision is the imagination. Okay? But how do you activate the imagination? Through virtue, through love. Okay? It is the love that will give you the imagination to see the ultimate salvation, which is God. And this is how the universe works. Okay? Dante has been selected because of his imagination and because of his virtue. What is his virtue? His virtue is his eternal love for Beatrice. Okay? What is his imagination? His poetry. That is what will enable him to know God and allow God to know itself. And I, who never burned for my own vision more than I burned for his, do offer you all my prayers and pray that they may not. I can't see God. I don't know God. I'm next to God. I live with God. I'm part of God, but I can't see God. Only Dante can see God. Fall short that with your prayers you may disperse all the clouds of immortality, so the highest joy be his to see. This too, O Queen, you can do what you would. I ask of you that after such a vision, his sentence preserve their perseverance. Okay? Yes, so Dante will see God, but God is so powerful. The vision will be so powerful that it will blow his mind. Okay, it will literally blow his mind. So Dante must use his virtue, his love, his very soul to maintain the shadow of this image. Okay, to remember a shocking memory. Okay, that is the goal here. May your protection curb his mortal passions. See Beatrice, how many saints with her, they join my prayers, they clasp their hands to you, okay? His mortal passions is basically fear and the ego. To truly understand God, you must abandon your mortal passions, your ego and your fear. You must be completely virtuous, you must be complete imagination, you must be complete love. Okay, there's a problem, okay? He's seen the Holy Trinity. It's 3 concentric circles, that's fine. Okay? And they're all reflecting each other. There's a fire inside them. But there's a problem with all this. He said, like, the longer I look, the more I concentrate, I discover there's a problem in the Holy Trinity, which is like, we're in the stupid thing. There's an effigy. There's a human likeness inside the Holy Trinity. That makes no sense because God is beyond us. Okay? That's why we must obey God, because God is a mystery. It's because God is so distant from us. Therefore, we must bow to it, be humble before it. But what Dante is saying is like, I looked into the soul of God and we are inside it. At its very heart. This makes absolutely no sense. As the geometer intently seeks to square the circle, but he cannot reach, through thought on thought, the principle he needs, so I search a strange sight. I wish to see the way in which our human effigy stood a circle and found place in it.
As the discussion moves deeper into Dante's final vision, the stakes become far more philosophical. The speaker focuses on a recurring theme found across religious and intellectual traditions, the struggle between ego and understanding. Throughout history, thinkers from Plato to modern psychologists have argued that fear and self-interest can distort how people perceive reality. Dante's vision pushes that idea to the extreme. Instead of encountering a distant and unknowable God, he discovers something unexpected, a reflection of humanity within the divine itself. That revelation creates a profound paradox. If human beings are somehow connected to the very thing they seek, then the search for meaning becomes less about looking outward and more about understanding what already exists within. The mystery remains unresolved, and that's precisely what keeps the audience engaged.
He can't figure it out. This is the greatest paradox in the universe. Why are we inside God? Why? My own wings are far too weak for that, but then my mind was struck by light that flashed, and with this light received what it had asked. Here force failed my high fantasy, but my desire and my will were moved already, like a wheel revolving uniformly by the love that moves the sun and the other stars. Okay, I can't figure it out, but I want to figure it out. And I feel as though I'm changed by this process of trying to figure this out. Okay? So, that's it, Divine Comedy. This is how it ends. It doesn't end with the answer, it ends with a question. Why are we inside God? What's the meaning of all this? Okay? And this is all very confusing because this is how it ends and he doesn't give us the answer. And so the thing to understand about Divine Comedy is that it's not meant to be the Bible. It's meant to inspire you to embark on your own journey into the depths of the universe. Okay? And so you need to reread the Divine Comedy many, many times throughout your life. And with each reading, you'll have a deeper understanding of the Divine Comedy. And with each reading, it will change how you live. It will change how you see yourself. What is the secret here? What's the answer? What is God? Okay, well the first thing is, what does this remind us of? Have we seen this before? 3 circles with a human inside of it. Actually, we have. Okay, we've seen this before in this class. Okay, so and I'll show you where it is. But here it is. This is God. Because Beatrice was telling us to do the experiment. It says, take 3 mirrors, okay, and then shine a candle so that the candle is reflected in 3 mirrors. And she tells us, hold that candle, okay? You're holding the candle. And as a result, not only is the candle reflected inside the mirrors, but you yourself is reflected in the mirrors as well, to all of eternity. What is this? It's the Godhead that Dante saw in his vision, all right? So what's happening is that Dante is reminding us of this experiment. And he's also reminding us that if you continue to extend this experiment, it extends into infinity, all right? And so this is what God is. God is the candle that burns in us. We all have a candle inside of us, and it burns. And because it is the memory of God. It is God in us. Then the question then is, okay, what is this candle thing called? What is it that burns in us? And the more good we do, the more intense it burns. And what is this candle that's able to reflect?
What makes Dante's ending so powerful is that it refuses to hand the audience a simple conclusion. Instead, it invites continuous reflection. The speaker uses the imagery of mirrors, light, and infinite reflections to explain a concept that has appeared in philosophy, theology, and even modern discussions of consciousness. The central claim is that love is not merely an emotion but a force that shapes perception, creativity, and human connection. Whether viewed through religion, psychology, or literature, love has often been described as something that expands how people see the world. In this interpretation, Dante's journey is ultimately about discovering that meaning is not found through absolute certainty but through growth, curiosity, and connection. The final message is less about proving what God is and more about encouraging the audience to continue asking the question for themselves. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.
Throughout the universe, that's mirrored in each other. Well, it's love. So this is a great secret of the universe. God is love. You want to know what God is? Love someone, and you will feel God. Because it's a candle burning inside of you. And how do you know you're truly in love? Because your imagination will expand. You will see the world in a new way. You will see the world through the mind of God. You will reunite with God. Okay? And that's a great secret of the universe. And once you understand this, the way you see the world will be completely different. The way you read Dante will be completely different. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this knowledge that we have, that God is love, that God is the light, the spark in us that burns and never extinguishes inside of us. And we're going to reread the ending. And you'll see how now we have the higher vision. Now the universe has been revealed to us. Here force filled my high fantasy, but my desire and will were moved already, like a wheel revolving uniformly by the love that moves the sun and the other stars. Okay? So what's happened is I figured out what God is. And I realized it's not reason that matters. Okay? It's desire and will. I feel my whole soul moving by the love that moves the sun and the other stars. Okay? He understands God is love. And love is the fundamental power that unifies the entire universe.